Isagi Yoichi has officially lost his mind. This man's ego is evolving so fast that he's about to completely surpass his own master Jinpachi ego. Because Blue Lock vs Nigeria just proved that our boy isn't just chasing geniuses anymore, he's farming them for XP. And yeah, I've seen the comments saying that, oh, Isagi hasn't scored yet, he's a fraud. But nah, don't confuse our guy with Nagi.
You need to leave!
Our GOAT has been proving himself this whole game, so I'm here to break down not only his insane evolution, but also how he completely cooked and embarrassed the poor Nigeria team. When the match kicks off, Isagi already has a vision of victory. Even when Blue Lock are seemingly stopped by Onazi, their star player, it only takes him 2 seconds, and I mean like a fraction of a second, for Isagi to read him completely. He's already dissected how to win. This isn't instinct anymore, this is calculation. It's not like when he was low-key winging it and hoping for the pieces to come to him before. He knows how to evolve now. Aiku even says that the match is going exactly as their simulation predicted, which we can assume was Isagi's design all along. We can say this is the case since in chapter 311, Isagi was treating everyone like pieces in his game, roasting them for the slightest issue. But there is an actual reason for this outside of Isagi just being the crash out that he is, because part of his training was to watch professional level football and process it into his brain. I mean, he even cooks Hiyori, who was literally his equal previously. And when he and Karasu complain, Isagi just claps back and says, what kind of a lukewarm crap is that? Because all Isagi cares about is winning. Remember his revelation at the end of the Neo Egoist League? He threw away his individualistic ego for the sake of taking the victory. Isagi was nearly causing arguments here, but he isn't exactly wrong. They aren't close to the top level yet. Like, they were no match for any of the masters like Noah when they played in their games for a mere 5 minutes. So likely thanks to Isagi's managerial style, which by the way is crazily close to how Jinpachi Ego speaks, Blue Lock immediately adapted Nigeria's playstyle. Isagi gets Onazi on the ropes instantly, saying his ego, his weapon, is being everywhere all at once. Offense, defense, he's like a ghost on the pitch, which to most would be terrifying. But Isagi has already exposed a fatal flaw. If they can just stop him from touching the ball, Nigeria collapses completely. They rely on Onazi for everything, take him out and the entire system dies. And by the way, it's not just Isagi who's evolved, because you've got Reo and Karasu dominating the midfield like monsters, which helps Blue Lock switch from a cold, methodical defense straight into an aggressive, unpredictable offense. The perfect switch up. And that's when Bachira scores one of the most disrespectful goals in the series, using a rainbow flick into a volley that he smashes into the top corner. But even though we just saw this insane goal, the presence that's scaring all of the Nigerian team is Isagi. They focus on him so hard that it leaves every other player on Blue Lock wide open, so they completely tear them apart because of Isagi just being there. They've become unreadable. Bachira's cooking obviously like he always does, but then Reo steps in, copying Bachira's style and chaining it with Chiguru's Panther shot to score a screamer from range. Nigeria stands no chance. Even when Onazi tries the classic protagonist speech, we're family, we fight this together, Isagi just looks at him and says, no you won't. Not while I'm here. And he's right. That's the difference between Blue Lock and everyone else. Everyone in Blue Lock is fighting for their own goals, their own egocentrism. I mean, this is what Isagi learned himself and made into a part of his puzzle pieces. But everyone else in the world doesn't think this way. I mean, we saw in episode 1 of Blue Lock that Isagi was taught to pass, to play as part of a team. Anyway, the center of the field is owned by the most intelligent of the team, Aiku, Karasu, and obviously Isagi. Then you've got Chiguri and Bachira destroying the wings, and Rin's just waiting to unleash hell. But the glue that holds this entire monster of a team together is Isagi Yoichi. He's using everything he learned from the Neo League, manipulating everyone's ego so the team functions because of their selfishness. They're not cooperating, they're competing, and that's why it works. But it doesn't feel as chaotic as it did before, it's almost too simple. Especially when we cut back to Onazi, who's still trying with his protagonist bullshit, generic backstory, for my team, for my family, and then Gagamaru, you know, our GOAT, shuts it down effortlessly. And that's when Isagi realizes the truth. Yeah, they're gonna win easily, and that's the problem. If this game's too easy, no one will evolve. So he decides to change everything mid-match, and Everyone agrees, even Rin, they're willing to risk it all for the sake of evolution. But why? Well, because they're Blue Lock. The whole reason they got this far was through adversity. It was literally stated that evolution only happens in adversity by ego. And I'm not gonna lie, this is like ultimate disrespect to Nigeria. They're so easy to beat that Blue Lock have to handicap themselves to get a challenge. The funniest part about this is I was reading TikTok at the time, and there were still people saying, no guys, Nigeria could come back. No, let's be honest, they've just been completely disrespected this entire game. And now everyone's glazing our goat. Even Nigeria's manager admits that Isagi is the center of the entire operation. Onazi realizes that they're facing something new, a team of individuals chasing their own glory, while Nigeria relies on him alone. He tries to copy Blue Lock, but it doesn't work. The others don't have that killer instinct. They can't act on ego alone. That's the difference Ego and Isagi both understand. Winning isn't about peace or unity, it's about proving superiority. Ego literally says that comfort breeds weakness, and that's what Isagi's proving on the field. That if you're too comfortable and you're relying on your team too much, chances are you're not going to get too far. Following this, Nigeria tries to counter, but without the hunger Blue Lock have been cultivating, so of course they fail. Meanwhile, Rin and Isagi charge up the center like demons, destroying everything in their path. So you're probably wondering, what is Isagi's new strategy? Well, it's pretty simple. It's just to cut down the teamwork. Let him and Rin dominate with metavision, while everyone else fights individually. No support, no safety net, just survival of the strongest. This mirrors the under-20s match setup actually, where Ego forced cooperation through rivalry. That's the main reason Isagi even got a spot in that game, because he was the only one who, well, defeated Rin, so they could bounce off of each other. Ego already knew, all the way back then, how one evolves, but Blue Lock needed to learn this lesson themselves. So now everyone's desperate to score, and Nigeria has no way to defend. I mean, imagine you just seeing this sort of system working against you, but then you've got everyone all of a sudden switching up and going completely mental. To make things worse, Ring goes back into his flow state, syncing perfectly with Isagi this time, and scoring a monster goal using our boy as bait. By giving into his ego, his need to destroy Isagi, Rin evolved again, but instead of getting frustrated, Isagi smiles. He's loving it. Every challenge is simply a new puzzle piece for him to master. Nigeria starts catching the energy, trying to get one goal back, but Isagi just shuts them down again, saying it won't work. You're just hyped up like it's a movie, but this is real life. Wanting something doesn't make it happen. This line is honestly peak Isagi. He calls them out for having temporary egos. They don't think individually, they rely on the group. So he asks, how do you feel playing against Blue Lock? And that's when Onazi finally breaks. He admits he's frustrated, angry, and he awakens his true ego. He stops caring about the team, he just wants to be the best striker in the world. And Isagi smiles again, because that's exactly what he wanted. He's creating egoists out of everyone he meets, which is what he learned again in the Neo-Egoist League, and not just then, but the entire series. He awakened Barrow when he played against him because Isagi completely trashed him, and then he made Rin get stronger. He made basically everyone get stronger. And when Onazi asks where his unending ego comes from, Isagi simply answers, from the curiosity to discover who I am. And then we finally learn why Isagi has changed so much, because when he was went to observe pro teams in person for a while, watching them sharpened his metavision and deepened his ego even more. And for the first time in forever, he remembered why he even started playing football. As a kid, he was a crybaby, always emotional, anxious, but the first time he saw the ball hit the back of the net, his world stopped. His brain awakened. From that moment, he was hooked. Watching, studying, evolving. But as he grew up, that spark faded. He became a team player. That's why Ego's words hit him so hard right at the beginning. Because Blue Lock didn't just awaken these feelings, it reawakened what was there all along. That burning curiosity to find himself through football. But now there's no flip-flop in his personality like there was before. Remember that before he'd act all squeamish in his personal life, but switch up massively when it came to football. But it's nowhere near as drastic anymore. Crash out Isagi is kinda just who he is now. And that curiosity defines him. He needs stimulation to keep evolving. He's completely obsessed. At the end of the Neo-Egoist League, he said this, that it's hard to keep this fire burning. It's something that Nagi really struggled with. Once he achieved his purpose, he stopped evolving completely. He had no reason to. But the difference between everyone else's ego and Isagi's is his goal was something that could never really be achieved. improved. His goal was to just keep on getting stronger and keep on getting better, which is actually quite similar to Noah of all people, because he also had an insane ego that made him want to get stronger and stronger and stronger. I mean, the guy made Kaiser get stronger than ever just so he'd have a rival he could surpass. And Isagi isn't any different, but he goes a step further because he's hyping up the entire team of Nigeria on purpose. He wants them to surpass him, because if they do, he'll experience something new. And Aiku's like, bro, stop motivating the enemy, but of course Isagi's just saying some crazy shit. If they evolve, I can use it as data. If they don't, I crush them. Either way, I win.
Well, one thing we know for sure is that he's a cornball.
This is why he's the greediest player in Blue Lock. Ego has found the best player for Japan. Remember that his goal was to find the ultimate egoist, and Isagi Yoichi is the definition of ego. And then he does something even more wild. He leaves Aiku alone to defend. Not because he's careless, but because he wants to test him, and Aiku just says, Roger. Even Aiku's taken orders from him now, who was definitely the captain of the under-20s team. But now, Isagi's the true captain of Blue Lock. Remember what he already said as well, that because of Isagi, everyone can grow stronger. Now he's literally inspiring their evolution just by existing. Isagi Yoichi has become what Ego always dreamed of, a monster who makes others evolve by devouring them, which could lead into Ego's true goal. He made it look like he just wanted a striker, but there's a bit more to it than that. What if his whole goal was to find a striker whose ego was so crazy that it inspired everyone around them, rallying the entire team, not just making the striker better, but making the entire team of Japan incredible? And we see that Isagi has caused Aiku to get a lot stronger just from these words, because in chapter 324, Aiku is already analysing Onazi in his awakened state more than ever before, using his probability calculator to work out the chances of blocking the shot is 1 in 4. So yeah, he's using metavision, but even with that, he can't stop the shot 100%. Again, it's like a 25% chance. But that changes when our GOAT enters like a demon again, crushing the root, with Aiku saying that it just became a 1 in 1 chance. Isagi is just unbelievable. He transforms the game no matter where he is. This guy is everywhere. But Onazi continues to evolve, but this is just what Isagi planned. Twisting his body with his back facing goal, somehow finding a way to shoot towards goal, but Aiku manages to graze the shot, saying that Isagi caused an evolution of the other team, not just for himself, but to make him and Blue Lock stronger. So he prepares for a never seen before play. Aiku's defending causes the shot to hit the woodwork, and Corona clears it, with Ego impressed, saying that the 45 days of training paid off, and that the reconstruction of Isagi Yoichi's shooting pattern was perfect. Even Ego's glazing our GOAT's tactics, saying that this is a great stepping stone. But what he never could have imagined is that Isagi's ego evolved way more than he could have thought, as our guy is pissed, saying that it's not enough, and how dare they be satisfied, leaving Ego with a shocked expression. This is the biggest moment in Blue Lock for me. Isagi's whole journey in a big way has been linked to Jinpachi Ego. I mean, Noah said how Ego was once his rival and that they have a similar mindset. Isagi has always been one step behind Jinpachi's plans too, but during this match, he's not only proved himself equal as a tactician, but now he's surpassed him. Ego always says how evolution was his goal, finding the perfect striker with the perfect ego, and he always looked at Isagi, but now he's gotten what he always wanted, someone with an ego beyond his own. In our past videos, I've explained how Ego was likely crushed by a genius, believing a talented learner could never match up, just how Isagi did against Loki. But unlike Ego, Isagi rose to the challenge and became the Demon King of Blue Lock. But where is the proof that Isagi is actually Ego perfected? The difference between the two is that Ego gave up and only realized too late that there was actually a path to the top. Noah compared our MC to Ego when he was breaking down the ideal play and the idea of metavision. So Ego believes in Isagi the most because they play in a very similar way. Ego has shown extreme excitement whenever Isagi displays his true ego, like when he cooked Nico. Ego straight up started tweaking in the control room. Then again in the under-20s match, when Isagi told Ego to basically go fuck himself and to make sure they win no matter what. This man has been smiling like a proud father at a school fight. Then he's choosing to be a striker but eventually coming to the same conclusion that Isagi did, that he was a talented learner and not a genius. But that realization crushed Ego, Ego. Just like when Isagi once believed that he was nothing more than a tool to make geniuses shine, Ego came to the same conclusion, but this time with him, it was Noel Noah, it wasn't Loki like it was with Isagi. But the difference is, Isagi eventually learned how to evolve his ego and rise to become an equal to these geniuses. Because, yeah, he can make them evolve, but then he can just catch up to that evolution. The Blue Lock project is almost like Ego's redemption arc. He treats Ego like a weapon, and Isagi is the only one who has mastered it. Each player's ego is tied to their deepest desire, the hunger to devour rivals, and create the perfect goal. That's how players enter the flow state, a trance where instinct, imagination, and execution become one. But Isagi has figured out something even deeper. The trigger for flow isn't the same for everyone, it's personal. And by dissecting how each ego functions, Ren declared it himself. Isagi is the demon king who can manipulate the pitch for a goal. That's how Isagi became undefeated in a Neo-Egoist league. He outplayed genius level talents like Ren by reading their egos like a cheat code. Jinpachi once said, "Talent is just a lump of ore. If you don't smelt it and polish it, it's trash." Genius means nothing if it doesn't create results. By chapter 285, even Noah realized that he was being used by Isagi, and Ego wanted to prove that learning and obsession can beat geniuses. In this chapter, Isagi has surpassed Ego, because even his imagination and, well, Ego couldn't have pushed Blue Lock this far and still been hungry for more. Ego likely underestimated Isagi, thinking he could just surpass Noah, but our guy is gonna surpass everyone in every aspect and become the best player in every area of the field, because he's just too greedy. And given the next chapter is titled "The Student Becomes the Master," backs up my point. Isagi will become the leader of Blue Lock, but what if they actually do lose the Under-20s World Cup here, and Ego is ousted from Blue Lock as he said would happen in chapter 311? Well, Isagi would take over and lead them to victory just as he said he would after scoring in the Under-20s game. Come on, I'm surely cooking here, but if you want to see us cook even more, then make sure to check out the video on screen right now.